welcome and thank you so much for joining me for another one of my Spiritual Queens Badass Podcast episodes. I am so excited to have you here today. And of course, we have a very special guest. So, Brad has been on the podcast before many years ago, I think, at this point. I feel like it was one of the first ever episodes we did on the podcast. So, it is only fair that we get Brad back new and improved with some brand new tapping to share with you today. So we will be uploading the video of this to YouTube as well. So if you want to see us tapping, you can do. But of course, you can tap along with us in this podcast episode just by listening to the audio as well. But if you don't know what we're on about, we have the king of EFT with us today, Mr. Brad Yates, or Papa Yates as I call him. And if you don't know who Brad Yates is, Brad is known internationally for his creative and often humorous use of emotional freedom technique, EFT, also known as tapping. Brad is the author of the best-selling children's book, The Wizard's Wish, the co-author of the best-selling Freedom at Your Fingertips, and a featured expert in the film, The Tapping Solution. Brad also has over 1,000 videos on YouTube that have been viewed over 48 million times. And we all love Brad's YouTube channel. So I feel like we're going to be talking about that a lot today. But welcome to the show, Brad. Again, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Emma. It's always wonderful to see you.
Oh, thank you so much for being here again today. I can't believe how many years it's been since you've been on, and we're still doing the podcast and we're still here tapping.
Yes, we are. There's always something else. Nothing is so good that it can't get better. So there's always it's like, oh, what else? What other layer can I remove to set myself free to make things even better?
Yes, yes to that. Well, Brad, for anybody who hasn't heard of you before or hasn't heard your story, you know the drill. The one question that I ask every guest at the beginning of the episode is, when did you spiritually awaken? What's your story?
Yeah, and it's over time, different layers of that in terms of I'd started out as an actor and had traveled the world doing theater, had gone to LA to be a movie star, as one does, and instead met a woman, fell in love, and got married. And when our first child was on the way, I realized I needed a backup career, and I became a hypnotherapist, and through that, really started to get in touch with, and I had listened to personal development things, Nightingale Conan, and all that stuff. But when I started doing this practice and working with the mind, that was the beginning, I think, of the evolution to having this connection to something greater than myself, other than the religion that I had been raised in and that kind of stuff, which is foundational. But really, this get in touch with a higher power, a higher self, and our own higher self was an evolution from the work with hypnotherapy, and then later when I learned about emotional freedom techniques or tapping, and doing this work with other people and finding that the work was coming through me as opposed to me doing it. It's like, oh, I now know everything and I can fix people. It's like, no, I just show up and allow something a lot more intelligent than me to work through me, in terms of working with my clients, in terms of my own manifestations and what I'm creating in my life.
Hmm, I love that. And obviously, you've been doing YouTube now for, isn't it like 14 plus years?
Yeah, it's what was it, 2007? So yeah, it's a while. 16,
And what have you
17 years.
noticed with EFT over that time, how it's kind of changed and developed, and even your journey with EFT, how has it developed over that time?
Well, it's getting much more widely known. There are, I see more people popping up on YouTube doing tapping videos. A lot more people taking advantage of that opportunity to share this work, and certainly a lot more people being open to it. And obviously, there are still a lot of people very resistant to it, because when you see it on YouTube and people are tapping on their face, it's like, what is that? But the and each person brings their own spin to it, and their
Mm.
own spiritual practices. Some are very technical, and some are very spiritual and very, very much out there, and some might call it woo woo. The technique of tapping itself is not woo woo, it's just using your body's natural system for calming down stress. But certainly the modality lends itself to all kinds of different spiritual practices and thought, you know, theories about mind and how we think.
Mm. So, for anybody who is completely new to the world of EFT or tapping, and they might have heard us talk about it, or they might be like, I've never heard of this before. What is EFT and how can it help us manifest our dreams?
Yeah, thank you. It's based originally on acupuncture. So, for thousands of years in Chinese medicine, they have said there's a flow of energy through the body along pathways that are called meridians. And when this energy is flowing naturally, we experience our natural state of health and well being, physically and emotionally. When this energy gets stuck or disrupted in some way, we don't feel so good. We don't think as clearly. We don't make the best choices. And that has all kinds of unfortunate consequences for our lives. So, in traditional Chinese medicine, a doctor would stick needles in these key points around the body, and that stimulates the healthy flow of energy. We're just using our fingertips to tap those same points and get that energy flowing. And so acupuncture is one of the theories of how it works. We also have all kinds of scientific research validating that it is a stress relief technique. It activates certain key points that send electrical signals to the brain to calm down the nervous system, because there's this part of the brain called the amygdala that's always looking for threats. And when it perceives a threat, it puts us into fight or flight. And when we
Mhm.
go into fight or flight, our prefrontal cortex, the rational, creative part of our mind, goes bye bye. And we go into old patterns and old behaviors that may not be as healthy or productive as we'd like them to be. So, and in modern day society, all kinds of things put us into that state. We're all walking around with a phone that's constantly telling us, hey, here's something else to be upset about. So we're not operating
Mhm.
at our best most of the time and not even aware of it. We're not even aware of how much stress we're carrying. So using the tapping to calm down that stress, it's energy hygiene, just like we have physical hygiene, like brushing our teeth, taking a shower to maintain our physical health. We want to have a daily practice for maintaining our energetic health. And particularly in terms of, say, manifestation, that stress gets in the way of that. We want to be in vibrational harmony with what we want. We want to be able to feel as good as possible. So when we're looking at our vision board or whatever it might be, we feel really awesome about it. And a lot of times we're kidding ourselves. We're looking at that vision board going, oh, yeah, I feel great about it. I feel great about it. But that's, our 10% of our conscious mind convincing us of that. But the other 90 and 95% is is in this stuff going on about why I couldn't or shouldn't have that. And when I try to change that, it feels threatening. And the amygdala picks up a threat and says, oh, you're getting too much money, or you're too healthy, you're too this, you're too that. Oh, relationships aren't good. Don't go out with that person. Mess this up. And then we try to sabotage it. And sabotage is simply misguided self-love. Don't beat yourself up for those sabotaging behaviors. Just allow yourself to say, oh, part of me is convinced that this isn't safe for me. And I'm having a stress
Mhm.
response, and I need and so I'm backing away from those things that I consciously say I want, but unconsciously believe aren't safe for me. So the tapping helps us downregulate that stress and allow ourselves to look at it and say, okay, these doubts about having this, these might be misunderstandings, and I can clear that up. And then I have the freedom to really feel good about what I say I want.
Mm. And I love that, Brad, because I remember when you came in the membership, I think it was in 2020 when you came in, you said something which literally changed all of our manifestation games. Every single one of us, including myself, was like, oh my gosh, this has just blown my mind. And you said something along the lines of, the reason why you're having this, whether it's self sabotage, fears, limiting beliefs, is because you don't feel it's safe to have your desire. And then you did some tapping with us to help us feel safe with our desire. And that was such a huge shift for all of us. And I think it really opened even up my awareness to Oh, yeah, we actually don't always feel safe receiving, even though we're setting these desires and doing the work and doing the affirmations and doing all the jobs. Actually, that subconscious or, the limiting beliefs, fears, traumas, whatever, are there not feeling safe. So they are subconsciously pushing it away and keeping it away from us.
Yeah. It's the extent to which we don't have what we say we want tends to be the extent to which we're resisting it. And we resist it
Mm.
because it feels wrong. It feels unsafe. I was thinking about the other day, you think about like grammar. So if you were to conjugate the verb to do, I do, you do, they do, he do. No, it does. He does. So if you try to say he do, it just feels uncomfortable because, depending on the grammar that you've been taught. I know that some people, it's like, okay, there's slang and things like that. But for many of us, it feels uncomfortable to try to say that. It's not, no, he does. So that same kind of discomfort that's subtle, but it's just like, no, it just feels wrong. We have that. So we have all of our rules about grammar. We have rules about money. We have rules about health. We have rules about relationships. And so when I try to say, oh, I'm a millionaire, I may have rules about that, and it's going to feel as cringy as trying to say he do. And so I'm going to back off from that, and I'm going to find very subtle ways. And I'm going to tell myself, no, no, I'm fine. I've got the images of me in my sports car, or whatever it might be. But some parts go, yeah, but you can't do that because it's against the rules. And so it's allowing ourselves to go in and go, all right, what's going on inside me? If I'm not attracting this, chances are there's some sort of rule that I'm afraid this will violate.
Mm, I love that. I love that you say it's like a rule you're going to violate because I think it can feel daunting sometimes to dive into the inner work or think, where have I picked that belief up from or who's taught me that money isn't safe or whatever. And sometimes it's not easy to just access it there and then, you've got to dive into it and see where that comes from. So I think it's great that we can break that down so easily. Oh, what message has just come up? Brad Yates recording will continue on a new track. Okay, sorry. Riverside just stops sometimes and tells me things, and I panic it's not recording. Can you still hear me okay? Have you got me?
Uh, Now I can hear you. I don't know what happened. Suddenly,
It just
it
threw
kicked
you
me
out, I
off,
think.
and it threw me out and changed my settings, but we're back now. Um,
We're back. Are all
I'm
your
sorry. What?
audio settings still the same?
So we can edit that right from wherever. Right when I finished that explanation of the rules, and you were just saying something about, yes, we have our rules, and then that's when I got booted out.
Okay. I think it will have got everything Kai said, but just so you know what I said, I was just saying about how the rule is, I love how you put about the rules because sometimes it can feel really daunting to dive into the inner work when you don't know where that belief or block comes from. You don't know who's taught you that money is not safe to have. It's not always accessible to us to just know where that beliefs come from and at what age and, all the ins and outs of it. So I like that we can kind of break it down into that rules.
Yeah, and tapping while doing so makes it safe. This is
Mm.
the problem with a lot of the things that bother us is our mind says there's nothing to see here, and we try to avoid it. And so we'll say, oh, I have no blocks to money, I have no block to this or that. And because it just to even look at that feels cringy. We have rules about what we're allowed to look at. So the tapping lets us know, okay, I'm safe, this is okay, I'm allowed to look, I can go and open those doors and go, oh, that's what's in there. Go up into the attic and start opening some boxes and go, oh, look what I found. Hey, here's this thing from when I was 5 years old, and my parents were having a fight about money, and I decided money just causes problems,
Mm.
and that kind of stuff that normally I would just totally avoid. So it's allowing ourselves that freedom to go and explore what might be stopping me, because if I just coming from that understanding of, if I don't have it, let's just assume that there may be some belief that I still have about why I couldn't or shouldn't have it.
Mm. I love that. So, for anybody who's like, this sounds great, Brad, I really want to try EFT, like, you've sold it to me. I want to give it a try. I know I've got some blocks, I know I've got some fears. Some common questions that I see in my community around EFT is how often should we be doing it? And kind of what results can people expect? What have you seen in your community throughout your career, shift wise, through doing EFT?
Yeah. For the first question, daily, just, just like brushing your teeth, ideally, because we're getting stressful situations on a daily basis. So, how long do you want to wait before you brush your teeth?
Mhm.
Probably want to do it on a daily basis, generally at least twice a day. So, tapping, even if it's just a few minutes a day, that is going to be beneficial. And you may not notice it right away. With tapping, sometimes the benefits occur right away. If we're feeling stressed out, we might feel an immense amount of relaxation right away. Sometimes it's very subtle. And sometimes, especially if we're tapping on things like money issues, I haven't seen it yet where someone tapped and immediately checked their bank account and there were suddenly millions of dollars or pounds there that weren't there moments before. Uh, Although, actually, there have been times where people have said, I did the tapping round, like they watched a video of mine on being a money magnet or a client magnet or something like that. And right afterwards, they found that they had a call from a potential client. Or
Mhm.
I shot a video once called Money Comfort, and after I had finished it, I had checked my email, and while I was filming that and doing this tapping on myself, I had got notification of some unexpected money that had come in. So let me backtrack and say, sometimes even with money, the results are instantaneous. Sometimes they're
Mhm.
much more gradual. So if it doesn't happen that way, it doesn't mean it's not working. Sometimes it's like taking vitamins or supplements. We take them on a regular basis without any expectation of noticing the results right away. We just know that it's working. And with tapping, it's the same thing. We have all kinds of studies showing the biological markers of changing, of lowering stress and things like that. So I promise you it's working, even if you are not consciously aware of it and you don't see the results right away. And then be open to the possibility that results can happen more quickly. And part of that is also, why might I be afraid of the results coming more quickly? And allowing yourself to clear that. It's like, oh, even though I don't feel ready for instant manifestation, I choose to love and accept myself. And over time, we become much more open to receiving.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I think even just the sensation sometimes can be that instant manifestation if it's not like the money just randomly popping up right in front of you. But I've had it. I've done your money magnet video for years. And every single time something will manifest, whether it's throughout the day or, straight afterwards. So it definitely does work for sure. And even like the lucky ones you do, but yeah, I think the biggest things that I notice is just my shift in awareness and my shift in calmness and feeling grounded and regulated again. And I always remember the first time I did my first ever Brad video on YouTube, I just cried and cried and cried afterwards. And I was so surprised that just from doing some tapping on my hand and on my head and things, that I was just having this uncontrollable crying. But obviously I'd never done EFT before. It was this huge release of so much tension, so much anxiety, so much fear, that yeah, I always say to people, if you are doing this for the first time, you might cry. It's quite normal.
Crying, yawning, there's all kinds of releases. And that's the thing, is that because when we do that, it's like, wow, I had no idea consciously that that stuff was there.
Mm.
So when I'm out there trying, looking at my vision board or whatever, and I'm trying to manifest, all of that stuff was there. And it's like, oh, that may be why things aren't happening for me the way I wanted, because I'm walking around with all of this stuff that is keeping me from feeling as good as possible.
Mm. Definitely. Well, on that note, Brad, let's get to action. Let's clear these blocks for everybody. So, I picked a more generic money block, first of all, for us to tap on because every single time whether it's in the membership or any community that I have, everyone's like money blocks. So, I know that anybody listening to this episode is probably like, yes, Emma, get us to tap for money blocks. So, could we do a little bit of tapping, Brad, for some money blocks, please?
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite things to tap on. And it's not because I'm just this greed monster and it's like all about, oh, ever rich and, got to have, private jet and all this. It's because money comes as a result of sharing our gifts. And if I have blocks about money, then one of the best ways to keep myself safe is to withhold my gifts and talents. If it's not safe for me to have all that money coming in, then I need to stop myself from putting out my gifts and talents. And that's what I won't stand for because I'm a gift unwrapper. I'm here to help people share their gifts as much as possible. So whether you have a mansion or a private jet, that's great, but that's not what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is you being so comfortable with money that you're not using that as an excuse to hide your gifts and talents from the world. So just to be clear about that. So real quick, for anyone who is not aware of EFT and may possibly be listening to this on audio, what we're going to do is we're going to take the index and middle finger of your dominant hand, and with the fingertips, you're going to gently tap on the side of your opposite hand. So right between your wrist and your pinky, and gently tap in there. And then we'll say whatever the statement is that's bothering us. So even though I have this issue, I choose to love and accept myself. So we just want to accept that we have this thought, this belief. We'll repeat that 3 times. And then we'll go to the eyebrow point. So right at the beginning of your eyebrow, right near the center of your face, we'll gently tap there, generally between 5 and 10 times. You don't need to keep count for whatever issue we're saying. It's however long we are making the statement. The next point we'll tap is you follow your eyebrow out to the side of your eye and gently tap right there at the corner of your eye. The next point will be right under the middle of your eye, just above your cheek. The next point is just below your nose, just above your upper lip. The next point is just below your lower lip, just above your chin. The next point is right where your collarbones just about come together. There's a little U shape at the base of your throat. You can go ahead and make a fist and tap where those collarbones meet. Next point is about 4 inches below your armpit. It's right about bra strap level, and I'm sure any guys listening can figure out where that is as well. And then finally, the top of your head. So with all of your fingertips, just tapping the crown of your head. So as we go through this, I'll mention the points for those of you just listening to the audio. The first round we go through, I'll tell you which point to tap. And then after the top of the head, we're just going to keep going through all the points. So you can just keep following through all those points with each statement. So go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and hold it. And let it go. And just breathing comfortably, just allowing yourself to be present. With your eyes closed, just imagine the amount of money that you'd like to have. And imagine what that looks like. So it may be, you may have a different house, you may have a different car, you might be traveling to different places, you might just be looking at your online bank statement. Just allowing yourself to imagine what life with that amount of money looks like. And just following your breath through your body, noticing what you're feeling physically and what you're feeling emotionally. Say, it's safe for me to have this much money. And notice on a scale of 0 to 10 how true that feels. 10 being absolutely safe. Now I know that some of you are going to want to say, oh, it's definitely a 10. Here's the thing. If you don't already have that amount of money, or you're not obviously on your way to making that kind of money, then I'm going to say check again. and look at why it might not feel safe. There's something, and it may just be a physical sensation, it may be an emotion. Allow yourself to be aware of any thoughts, beliefs, or memories that might be coming up as to why you couldn't or shouldn't have that much money. And don't worry about it if you're not clear on that. If you're not having a memory or belief come up, just allow yourself to be aware that, okay, there's something going on about why I couldn't or shouldn't have that. And maybe I don't deserve it. I may be convinced that it's not possible. And I'm not supposed to manifest something that's not possible, because that would freak me out and freak out people that I know. So, and just allow yourself to be aware there's some resistance there. If you can feel in your body, notice how strong it is on a scale of 0 to 10. Notice where in your body you might feel it. Take a deep breath, open your eyes, and starting with tapping on the side of the hand, and just repeat back what I say. Even though I might have some resistance to having more money, I choose to love and accept myself anyway. Even though I may have some resistance to having more money, I choose to love and honor myself anyway. Even though I may have some resistance to having more money, and if I don't have all the money that I want right now, I choose to assume that there is resistance there, and I choose to clear it. And even though I still have some resistance to having more money, I choose to deeply and completely love, honor, and accept myself, and maybe anyone else who might have convinced me that it's wrong to have more money. Tapping the eyebrow point. All this resistance to having more money. Side of the eye. All this resistance to having more money. Under the eye. All this fear of having more money. Under the nose. And part of me might say, I am not afraid of having more money. Under the mouth. Part of me is saying, collarbone, I have no resistance to having more money. Under the arm, I absolutely want more money. Top of the head, no resistance whatsoever. Now again, going through all the points. But if I don't have that much money right now, I choose to be open to the possibility that there might be some resistance. And any refusal to acknowledge resistance is just part of that same resistance. Because if part of me is afraid of having more money, I want to find a way to stop myself from clearing the blocks to having more money. But now I'm on to myself. And I'm not going to fall for that anymore. I choose to acknowledge that I have some resistance. Not because I'm bad or stupid. Not because I'm weak or lazy. But because I have all of this old programming about why it would be wrong to have more money. And I choose to clear these reasons. Maybe I'm afraid I couldn't handle it. I could learn how to handle it. Maybe I'm afraid other people would be jealous. Well, that's their issue to tap on, because the abundance is there for them too. Maybe I'm afraid that I don't deserve it. And I choose to clear any misunderstandings about that. I am a magnificent child of the universe, worthy and deserving of the best this world has to offer. And there is nothing that is too good for me. Not even this amount of money that I want to manifest. So I'm clearing any doubts that I deserve it. Clearing any reasons why I couldn't or shouldn't have more money. And I'm allowing myself greater clarity about any resistance I might be hanging on to. What else might I be afraid of? What would be the negative consequence of having this much money? And is that true? I'm clearing up these old misunderstandings about money, clearing them at a cellular level, and clearing them all the way back through my past. Setting myself free to recognize it is okay for me to have more money. And I'm allowing myself to feel really good about that in body, mind, and spirit. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes, go inside, and again, imagine having that amount of money and just notice what that feels like. And if had been aware of the resistance and where it was, just notice in those parts of your body what that feels like now. So having that amount of money and say, it's safe for me to have this much money. And rate that on a scale of 0 to 10 again, and hopefully that number's come up. Or at least you may have more awareness of what doubts or fears might have been there.
I love that, Brad. That was so good. Thank you so much. I feel like when I tuned in, the amount of money was an 8, which surprised me because I thought it would be a little bit lower. And it was like a solid 9.5 now, and it felt really expansive and exciting. So my score's even gone up from that. So I'd love to hear from everybody what your scores were.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And so even you who you're in this work all the time, and it's still recognizing, oh, I'm not walking around at a 10 all the time, because none of us are. Because life happens, and we're constantly hearing things that say, oh no, you shouldn't be at a 10. You should hold back. There's that's too much, or whatever. And we get all these different kinds of messages in all kinds of different ways, and just recognize, okay, I'm a human being. I am susceptible to those things that can bring me down, and so I want to have a regular routine of allowing myself to clear that stuff up, so that I am at as high a level as possible, as often as possible.
Mm. Absolutely. And it's so true, because when it raises your vibration and it raises your frequency, just as it's done for us, we're going to be in that capacity. We're going to be in that vortex, that energy, that alignment to attract that to us, because we now believe it. From an 8 to a 9.5, that's still a really good score to start off with. But actually,
Yeah.
that 9.5 is even more solid. So it's going to be even more easier and effortless to bring that into your reality, which I love.
Yeah. And not only does it get those, make it easier to attract those results, it just feels better in the moment. It's
Mm.
letting go of this idea of, well, I'm attached to, the only point of doing this is if I then get that amount of money. It's like the whole purpose for money anyway is the experiences that we can get, and how we feel from that. What we really want is experiences. So it's like I just allow myself to feel really good.
Mm.
Even Abraham says the most important thing is that you feel good. So it's like, all right, I'm tapping to feel really good right now. If it allows more money to come in, which it eventually will, maybe very quickly, that's icing on the cake. But the main thing is, I am just having a much better experience of life at this moment, even if it's moving from an 8 to a 9.5. It's like, ooh, I've just up leveled my experience of life in this moment, regardless of whatever. And Emma, you may get off this podcast and go find, oh, hey, money just got deposited in my account.
I
But
hope so.
yeah, but even just for right now, that just having that more expansive experience of life, that's really what we're here for.
Amen to that. Well, Brad, I've got one final tapping question for you before we let you go. So, the Witchy Flamingo has asked, can we do some live tapping for trust and confidence in the universe? And I feel like this is such a universal thing that people were asking in the questions when I asked for their tapping questions, was about like trusting the universe, trusting the process, building that confidence in the universe. And this is definitely something that I've really struggled with over the years. So I know that a lot of people listening may be thinking, how do I just trust? How do I trust this is going to happen? How do I trust the universe?
Yeah. Do we have time to do another round?
You're good, Han. As long as you've got the time, I've got the time.
Okay. I would love to. So those of you on audio can't see, but behind me is a picture of Michelangelo's David. I have a miniature statue of David in front of me. I have a picture here on my computer. I have Davids everywhere because Michelangelo said the statues are already there, perfect inside the marble. And all I have to do is chip away what doesn't belong to reveal the masterpiece that's inside. And to me, that's a perfect metaphor for what we're doing with the tapping. The best version of ourselves is already inside. It's just cover up with excess marble, which is fear, doubt, shame, feelings of unworthiness. That's the stuff that keeps us from feeling connected because that masterpiece inside totally feels connected to source. It's like, oh yeah, the universe has my back. No problem. So we have blocks to that. So it's looking at why am I blocking that? So let's do this again. Close your eyes, take a deep breath. And on a scale, rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10 as to how much confidence and trust you have in source, universe, God, creator, whatever whatever word you choose to use, whatever feels most right for you, higher power, however that is. Just rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10 into how connected you feel. And don't inflate the number because you don't want to upset source. It's like, oh, God will be pissed off if I say it's less than a 10. Just source can handle whatever your number is, and allowing yourself to just be honest with yourself and go, okay, here's where I'm at. This my confidence in that connection, my confidence that the universe has my back is that the universe is taking care of me is maybe at a 3 or a 4, and allow yourself to be aware of why couldn't or shouldn't it be at a 10, and just notice what goes on in your body. So there may be thoughts, beliefs, or memories that come up. uh, there there may be, just before we hit record, I was telling Emma how I had an emergency with a cat issue. And so it'd be very easy for me to say, oh, come on. I'm doing all this tapping. Why does stuff like this happen to me? Oh, maybe the universe doesn't have my back. So, allow yourself to be aware of What circumstances come up such that you say, well, here's proof that the universe really isn't supporting me? And just allow yourself to be aware of how that feels in your body. Take a deep breath, open your eyes, and let's tap. So again, for those of you on audio, we'll start as I'm doing the beginning. We'll be tapping on the side of the hand, and then I'll let you know when we switch to the eyebrow point, and then just tap through the points with each statement. Even though I have some doubts about my connection, I choose to love and accept myself. Even though I have some doubts about my connection, I choose to love and honor myself. Even though I have some doubts about my connection, and I might believe that the universe has limitless supply, I just don't have faith that it's coming to me. And even though I have some doubts about my connection, I choose to deeply and completely love, honor, and accept myself. And maybe anyone else who might be involved in this, including Source. Okay, switching to the eyebrow point. All these doubts about my connection, all these doubts that the universe has my back, all these fears that I'm not being fully supported, all these fears that Source doesn't really want the best for me. And I may feel shame and guilt about that. But I mean, come on. Not everything I want is showing up. So it's only natural for me to assume that Source is holding out on me. Because I'm doing everything I can possibly do. I'm definitely doing my part. But Source is being stingy. And so I'm lacking confidence. I'm doubting my connection. And I'm processing all of these feelings. Processing the fear. Processing the disappointment. Processing any anger. I know I'm not supposed to be angry at Source. But I feel so frustrated at times. And I'm processing these feelings. Because when I hang on to them, I am not a vibrational match for what I want. And Source may be saying, I'm trying to give it to you, but you're putting up this big wall. And I'm processing this. And maybe I'm afraid of having a stronger connection. Maybe part of me says, if I really had confidence that the universe has my back, I might get myself into all kinds of trouble. I might block the connection as a way of protecting myself. I limit my awareness of the connection because I've been taught that that's safer. Maybe it keeps me from getting my hopes up. I may already feel disappointed right now. If I had even more faith, maybe I'd be setting myself up for even more disappointment. So while I would like to have more confidence, part of me says I'm living high on lowered expectations. And maybe I don't need to do that. Maybe I can allow myself to recognize that God's delays are not God's denials. And it may be for my higher good that things aren't showing up faster. So instead of that being a reason to lack confidence, it could be a reason to have even more confidence. I didn't get things sooner than I should. I'm grateful to Source for keeping me safe that way. I thought this was proof that the universe didn't have my back. But maybe it's even more proof that the universe does have my back. And I'm allowing myself to be even more ready. Clearing those blocks that were in my way. Feeling that it's safe to feel more connected. And I'm allowing myself to love myself in the process. In body, mind, and spirit. Take a deep breath. And let it go. And just with your eyes closed, allow yourself to check again with that feeling of connection, that confidence in your connection to Source. And just see what that feels like. And hopefully that feels stronger. And also allow yourself to be aware of if we've peeled some layers of the onion, and you might have some ideas about, oh, here's the thought that's been getting in my way. And then you can do more tapping to clear that stuff out.
There you go. Thank you so much, Brad. Like, oh my gosh, even from that second one, I mean, I wanted to yawn the whole way through, and I was like, I can't yawn. Everyone's going to think I'm so rude yawning on camera. I could feel the relief.
Very common reaction to tapping, though. It's a great sign of energy shifting.
Definitely, definitely. Well, Brad, my last question to you today, then, to wrap up the podcast is, what is one piece of life advice that you'd like to leave my lovely listeners with?
The thing that I always want to get across to folks is please love yourself. Be compassionate with yourself. When you feel like you're doing things wrong or just not doing them perfectly, allow yourself to recognize that you're doing the best you can based on old programming. Keep tapping or whatever processes you want to use to keep allowing yourself to get better and better. But recognize that you're worthy and deserving of love right now. And certainly in terms of manifestation, because when we really love somebody, we want the best for them. So the more you love yourself, the more you're going to want the best for yourself and allow the best. And then you're much more loving towards others. So it's a win-win situation.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that, Brad. And where can everybody find you if they want to learn more about your work or do even more tapping with Brad?
Thanks, Emma. The best is my website, tapwithbrad.com. And there you'll find, I actually have a free 5-day program called Tap into Success Beyond Belief. It's success beyond belief. It's why it's so much success. but it's the success that's beyond your current beliefs about what you can have. And you actually go directly to that at tapwithbrad.com/success. So it's a great free 5-day program to really start getting into these processes. And then on my website also you'll find links to my YouTube channel and all these other resources to help you have a greater freedom to succeed.
Amazing. And we will put a clickable link in the description below to all of those links Brad said, so we can make it nice and easy to go and do that 5-day free challenge, because that sounds amazing. But thank you so much, Brad, once again for coming on. I have so enjoyed today. I've learned so much. So I know everybody listening has probably shifted so much just from this podcast episode. So thank you so much for doing those rounds with us and bringing your beautiful energy as always.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for what you're doing. And thank you for this opportunity to share this. And thanks to everyone willing to clear those blocks, because it makes things better for everybody.